So today, we're going to tackle a cosmic-sized problem, predicting the sun's fury. We're going to dive into some really fascinating research that uses artificial intelligence to forecast solar storms. And get this, the story of who's behind it is just as cool as the science itself. Okay, let's just jump right in with a massive question. Could our own star, the sun, basically break the internet? It really sounds like science fiction, but the threat of a massive solar storm is very, very real, and our total dependence on tech makes us a huge glowing target. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, just to put a number on it, one major solar event could cost the US economy alone a staggering $2.6 trillion. Yeah, that's the kind of number that makes everyone sit up and pay attention. So, where is all this coming from? What's the deal? Well, it all comes down to the sun's natural kind of cyclical temper tantrums. Let's dig into what's actually going on up there. You see, our sun goes through this cycle, right? It's roughly 11 years long. And this isn't just some simple clock. It's a full-on cycle of intense magnetic activity that builds up and then dies down. The way we track it is by counting sunspots. Think of them as these big magnetic storms brewing on the sun's surface. Basically, more sunspots, that means a more active and, frankly, a more angry sun. Okay, so when the cycle hits its peak, what we call the solar maximum, the danger for us down here on Earth just skyrockets. I mean, we're talking about massive solar flares and coronal mass ejections that can literally fry our satellites, totally mess with GPS, and trigger widespread power grid failures. There's even talk of a potential internet apocalypse if those undersea cables that connect the entire globe get fried. No joke. Now, with a threat this big, you'd probably think the world's top space agencies are all over this, right? And you'd be right, they are. But some of the most exciting new research is actually coming from somewhere you would never expect. Get this, the groundbreaking paper we're digging into today, it was written by a high school student, Alice Hu, along with her advisor, Antonio Rodriguez. They built this incredibly sophisticated AI model to predict what the sun's going to do next. And yeah, they got it published in the Journal of Student Research. How cool is that? So, what was their secret weapon? It's a type of hybrid AI. It's called a CNN-LSTM model. And the best way to think about it is like a detective team. You've got the CNN part, that's the eye. It's fantastic at spotting key patterns and features in all that sunspot data. Then you have the LSTM part, that's the memory. Its whole job is to remember the long-term trends over many of those 11-year cycles. And this diagram really shows you how it all clicks together. The model sucks in all this data from past solar cycles, runs it through the eye, the CNN, and the memory, the LSTM, and then boom, it spits out a prediction for the next cycle. The whole idea, the really crucial part, is using the past to get a super accurate forecast of the future. But, building an AI model like this isn't just plug and play. The real genius in this paper is how these researchers fine-tuned their system. They figured out two key things that made their predictions way more accurate. Okay, so first up, they had to solve a really basic problem. You've got 270 years of raw data. How do you feed that to an AI so it can actually make sense of it? It's definitely not as simple as just dumping all the numbers in and hoping for the best. So they tried out two standard methods. First one is called MinMax normalization. It basically just squeezes all the data to fit perfectly between 0 and 1. The second one, standard deviation normalization, recenters all the data around the average. But, and this is a big but, it can end up creating negative numbers. And right here, this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see the problem immediately. Just look at that chart on the right. See how it dips below 0? It's showing negative sunspot numbers. But wait a second, you can't have a negative number of sunspots. That's physically impossible. This was their first huge aha moment. One of these methods just completely broke the laws of physics. And when they looked at the performance, well, the data told the exact same story. The model that used the min-max method, the one on the left, its error rate is nice and low, nice and stable. But then look at the other one on the right. The error rate just explodes. It goes haywire. The model becomes totally useless. So yeah, the choice was pretty clear. All right, so their second big challenge was all about memory. How far back in time does the AI need to look? How many of those past solar cycles do you feed it to get the best prediction? Because think about it, feed it too little data and it's forgetful, it can't see the big picture. Feed it too much and things get confusing. They had to find that perfect sweet spot. So what they do, they ran a bunch of tests, feeding the model anywhere from 1 to 8 past cycles of data. And this chart right here, this gives us the answer. See that dip? The lowest point on the graph, that's the lowest prediction error, and it happens at exactly 4 cycles. 4. That was their magic number.
Okay, so with their AI model perfectly dialed in, it was finally time for the moment of truth, making a prediction for the solar cycle we're in right now. But first, they had to build some confidence. They tested it on the past. So here, the red dots, that's the AI's prediction for solar cycle 23. The blue dots, that's what actually happened. Look at that. It's an incredibly close match. It nailed both the timing and the strength of the peak.
And just to be sure, they did it again for the more recent solar cycle 24. And what do you know? Once again, the prediction in red lines lines up beautifully with the real data in blue. This is what gives you huge confidence that this model really works.
All right, so this is the big one. After feeding the model their magic number, 4 historical cycles of data, all prepared with that winning MinMax method, here it is, the AI's forecast for our current solar cycle 25.
So, what's the verdict? The model predicts the peak is going to hit sometime between August 2023 and July 2024. And in terms of strength, it's forecasting a pretty moderate peak, really similar to the last cycle, number 24. So this suggests a pretty standard cycle, not one of these crazy catastrophic superstorms that some other predictions have been worried about.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does all this mean? Well, this whole project is way more than just a weather forecast for the sun. It's really about a new way of thinking about how we tackle these massive, cosmic-scale challenges.
And I think the researchers said it best themselves. Their super rigorous process led them to 2 huge findings. 4 cycles of data is the sweet spot for training, and our current solar cycle 25 is probably going to look a lot like cycle 24. That's a really powerful conclusion. It shows that even with something as chaotic as the sun, if you have the right method, you can find some real clarity.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. We've got these incredible new tools, right? AI that can help us predict the sun's fury. But as our world gets more and more connected, more dependent on all this tech, does each new advancement actually make us safer? Or does it just make us a bigger, more fragile target for when the next big one finally hits?